Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all my friends on the Earth ship. Welcome to my little sacred space of time that I reserve for our discussions of alchemy and spiritual alchemy. I'm Cindy Carter. I'm an intuitive, an artist, an energy healer, and a spirit consultant. I brought this alchemy podcast together for each Sunday event. I like Sundays because it's a progressive building of information, and I felt that if I bring this each Sunday, that you could become more aware on a universal level of yourself as a master alchemist, as a director of your life, that you're in control as a sovereign being. And so I thought I would bring a weekly reminder of that. And each week is just a touch on certain subjects that pertain to your alchemy, to your self-awareness and this spiritual ability to become aware. So last podcast, we talked about vibrational intelligence and about building an awareness in the moment to be aware of your emotional vibrations. Like, what's the vibration that's running in your system right now? And how can you uplift the energy field through acceptance of the energy that you're putting out, or acceptance of the emotion that you're displaying? But in that moment, you choose to change it. I introduced the emotional scale, emotional vibrational scale. You can Google that. In Google Images, it's a spiral up and a spiral down with emotions given a number on the scale. And you can quickly see for yourself where you are if you're in disappointment, in grief, and you can see what the next step up would be. That's vibrational intelligence, the conscious use of your vibration. So after that, it kind of became clear to me that all week long I was talking to people that were kind of liberating their bloodline. So now here we are at liberation. Liberation of the bloodline once you become aware of the vibrational intelligence within you. So I'm kind of waving to all you system busters out there. You know who you are. The ones that seem to want to buck the system, to change what's always been, to transmute what's always been given. The one that, doesn't do what the other family members do, or just stops the process of abuse in some families. It seems natural to go to liberation after we spoke about vibrational intelligence. And this is where you become the master of the intelligence, of the power, of the transmutation, and how to refine the movement for yourself. It's like healing your family tree. And I'm not talking about just your immediate relatives. I'm talking about every relative. This is a big quantum, concept here. So don't be thinking of just one relative while I'm talking about this. Bring every relative on both sides into one arena, and that's what I'm talking about. To realize all the threads, the emotions, the tendencies, the consciousness, and like all the fears, the irrational traumas, all the cellular miasms, that's a lot of stuff coming from a family tree on both sides. It's a quantum mishmash soup of genetics and thoughts and tendencies and agreements. It seems kind of messy to me. So what about, religious ancestral influence? Oh, God, I don't want to even open that door for a lot of people because, I've done a lot of hypnotherapy in the past where I spent a lot of time listening to the abuses of religion and the abuses of that in people's past lives. It was like a prescribed religious view that their cells took on as a false truth, as a false reality. This kind of thing leaves lasting scars, lasting demise, and kind of a tendency to necrosis. It leaves the markers of epigenetics for us to unearth kind of like karmic layers. And some ancestral influences have a lot of layers. So making peace with your mother is one thing. Making peace with your father is another. No matter what form of this representation of this family tree, whatever they represented on this earth or, whatever, it frees your children, the brothers, the sisters, the uncles, the aunts, the grandmas, the grandpas. It frees them when you free yourself. Many times removed when you accept peace and accept forgiveness. It raises the vibration of your being to be able to be compassionate with what's happening, with all the influence, with the things that get displayed by you and to you and from you that you may not like so much, that you ridicule or judge yourself for. Just remember the ancestral family tree. So what we're going to be doing is it's a sense of sovereignty to separate yourself from some of these energies. And people are out there, I can hear them going, what about unity consciousness? Well, we'll get to unity consciousness once you've realized your separation. This is compassion, where you understand your uniqueness in the expression of your family tree. This is the separation, the reorder of your perceptions, your thoughts, your ideas. It's the acceptance of unity, of all that represents in all its forms. But you as the alchemist, you can receive the good, the bad, the ugly, or the weird, the random. Or you can receive the love, or the joy, or the peace. This is the alchemist. The power of being the alchemist, where you choose to accept these versions and focus on which one helps you and which ones don't. Then the things that do come naturally, this will become a more natural vibration. You better watch out. You might find yourself being joyful in a family tree of depression. I found that a lot this week in a lot of my clients. They're system busters. You see, your genetics, your ancestors, they held a lot of extreme wisdom, benevolence, and kindness. And we're supposed to embody this consciousness right now. But there is also the antithesis of that. There's also grief and shame and strife, control, manipulation, and sadness. So we have to separate these ideas to come into the joy and passion of freedom as the alchemist. So you get to choose from the current status of your awareness where you are and where you want to be. And, define your intention. I have sure discussed, intention in former podcasts. It's the core ingredient to any alchemist's work. The spiritual work on self-awareness and conscious attainment of a sovereign idea of life. It's the sovereign expression for one life, free of the influences that make you feel less than or that begin to, spiral your energy downward, causing disease in the mind or emotions or the body. So it might be a genetic disposition for depression. This, if you look at this consciously in the moment, with the self-awareness that you can right this, that you can flip this perception of the moment to a more fair-weathered event, the gloom doesn't have to always be there. You can transmute in the moment a choice to not allow it to take hold of the mind or take hold of your energy. And allow yourself to look at your vibrational intelligence right then, right now. This is the liberation of the bloodline. The liberation of those deep-held ways, deep-held grooves that you and your ancestors swim in, because you didn't know any other way. You didn't allow the cells to open themselves like little shades. Open the blinds. See something else. You can change this to a free-flowing river of new expression and sovereignty, but unified, graceful sovereignty, grounded in your expression of yourself, minus the ugly influences. But you've got to first be kind to yourself. For goodness sake, I have talked to a lot of people recently that are really, really darn hard on themselves. I mean, there is no need for self-hatred deep down inside of you. It was a gift, more than likely, from an ancestor. A transmission, a frequency. And if you find it, please work to forgive yourself for allowing it or accepting it or even understanding it. Forgive yourself for being unaware that you're, grand and wisdom-filled and honorable. Or you can find somebody to assist you to release the energy of hate within you. Just system bust this. System bust your way to change, to newness. Discipline has sure come up lately in my healing sessions. And today it came up very quickly in my first healing session of the day. So, discipline has, reared its ugly head again. And some people think discipline is something to rebel against. It's like self-sabotage, really. But this is like discipline of self-awareness, discipline of the family tree, of the energy coming at you in the soup, of being able to discipline yourself. So I picked up this little book recently. It was a really thin little book. It's a translation of the Bhagavad Gita. I often pick up a book and, have no reason for picking it up other than I was drawn to it, like light comes around it and I have to get it. Knowing in the future something will be warranted of this book, But this one was a little different. It happened quickly. I picked it up just yesterday at a thrift shop, and here I am today opening it right before my first client. I'm relaxing and I'm waiting on the session. I'm relaxing myself. I do meditation before my sessions. And I just picked it up and I opened to a page. But first I said to the book, and this is how it works for me. I just stumbled upon this. But if a book is really talking to me with light, I'll just often say to the book or the author of the book, because time is collapsible, I said, whatever is in this book and that I open will, be needed by me or someone else. So I opened it right to a book, right to a page, and it was the 66th page, which is really an angelic number that other factions have taken over into darkness. And I opened it to the 6th teaching called The Man of Discipline. And of course, it was like exactly what my client, who was in complete disappointment and overwhelm, and she was really teetering on the edge of a real downward spiral. It allowed her the opportunity to spiral up the ladder and choose something different, something for her, that her ancestors did not choose for her. Get that? Her ancestors choose something other than discipline. So she took the genetics that she has, predisposed with depression and angst and worry, and she chose to transmute and uplift it. She realized that the key discipline was discipline, or the lack of discipline. And that often comes, like in the form of rebellion, of some discipline measure you had as a kid or in another life. Like, for instance, I remember just what came to mind was me writing over and over and over, I will not talk in class. In 3rd grade. You think that stopped me from talking? No, because they didn't realize I liked writing more than I liked the class. So I loved, being taken out of class to lay under my big desk and write 200 times. I will not talk in class. See, that's system busting, bringing joy to my day. Some people would think it's rebellion, but it wasn't so bad. But let's not rebel too hard. There is a compassionate level here. There's a fine line of self-awareness to deal with, to be a system buster, to liberate the ancestral line, but honor the line, honor the wisdom, honor the ancestors, honor the star nations that they came from and that you are housing the consciousness of in your body. This is vibrational intelligence. So compassion as a key thought and a key idea to drive your life, it'll allow you to just stop some of the energy that's killing the ancestral family influences that you might be under the spell of. Some cultures actually, they do call it a family curse. Call it spells, black magic. Well, I'm not so critical of that, but it's okay if I was gifted some of these traumas. I'm certainly not alone in this fact. We are all in the genetic soup. So here we go, setting about a sovereign expression to jump out of the bloodline, to be separate first, so I can unify the line in kind of a harmony and peace with some joy and freedom sprinkled in there, with each child having their soul choices, free of the influences of dark consciousness, with each relative being able to accept the choices of another member. You see the implications of this allowance to liberate, to become free of this genetic anomaly in the blood, in the sinew, in the consciousness, in the lifespan. You're genetically different than any relative or ancestor you have. You're unique. You're wisdom-filled. You're the one to choose what the heck goes on in this auric field. So this little book, the Bhagavad Gita, and the discipline that it showed me and her, I'm going to just share the little bit I shared with her. This is a quote from this small handbook, a translation of the Bhagavad Gita. This is the 6th teaching, a small excerpt of that. The self is the friend of a man who masters himself through the self. But for a man without self-mastery, the self is like an enemy at war. The higher self is a tranquil man whose self is mastered, is perfectly poised in cold and heat, and joy and suffering, and honor or contempt. He should fix for himself a firm seat in a pure place, neither too high nor too low, covered in cloth, deerskin, or grass. He should focus his mind and restrain the activity of his thought and his senses, sitting on that seat. He should be proactive in discipline for the purification of the self. You see, being faithful and honoring and loving of yourself brings about the transmutation of yourself. The Cindy person that I am, to be able to accept that I am so much more, that I am and you are so many more wisdoms and experiences right here in a genetic body. So let us purify through identifying the traits of yourself that need more love, not less. When you change how you feel about life and you become more hopeful and uplifting, it can allow a change for living family, for displaced family, for passed over family, no matter where or what dimension they live. But especially for close children, parents, and siblings, depending on the associations, the agreements of the past lives, and all kinds of other quantum entanglements that are now there for us all to find. Let's liberate in a loving, compassionate way. Let's find the ways to uplift your vibration. I have lots of podcasts of mine that discuss that, but you might as well use this surveillance device known as Google for your betterment. Use Google to raise your vibration. Google the 6th teaching of the Bhagavad Gita. Google raise your vibration. You can be disciplined. Or are you waiting on someone else to do it for you? Please don't wait for a future version of you to do this. We came here now to do this now. The time is given for us all now to accept the access and the forgiveness and the realignment of our ancestral influences. Let's birth new worlds and create and destroy at the same time. Remember, you're birthing continually in every moment. So do it consciously and claim the new ideas, the new worlds, and new understandings. You're the consciousness that's needed. You're all that's required for spiritual self-awareness. You're all that the alchemist is here to choose to liberate the bloodline and to accelerate into your future self and the freedom of that. You can find some freedom mentioned frequently in my free ebook. It's some channelings that are called Solene, the Ancient One, and you can find it on my website. I also talk about freedom in the Template of Grace. It's a way of bringing freedom to the body as an awareness by focusing for 11 days on grace as a meditation. It's very powerful and very relaxing at the same time. You can find that on my website. You can also find me on Patreon now, where I'll be sharing more intimately than I can on YouTube or Facebook. I'll be bringing you some Sasquatch stories, some videos, as well as some alchemy conference calls, and a Sasquatch conference call for all those who are experiencing Sasquatch all across the world that I'm talking to. I'm amazed at the amount of people that I'm talking to across the world. Finland, Belgium, the UK, all over BC. Just amazing. So I'm going to be sharing some of these things, some of these discussions with you there on Patreon. It's free to join, and any support that you give to me there is greatly appreciated. So may we all find the freedom to liberate our bloodlines for our futures and for the futures of those that we love. Many blessings.